Do you believe that everybody has that self-awareness ability? Is that like a muscle that you have to um, exercise and grow? Is everybody born with that like self-awareness ability?
I 100% believe that.
Yeah.
I think that is a superpower that makes us human, right? I feel like I think that humans are probably the only mammals that are self-aware, right?
Yeah.
And have the ability to change belief patterns, change thoughts, and utilize our minds to create this entire world,
Yeah.
right? And that's why they always talk about us being at the top of the food chain. I believe that self-awareness is that number one factor for that. I do believe that it is a muscle that needs to be practiced, and that there's a lot of propaganda. There's a lot of programming that goes into kind of keeping us from getting aware or self-aware to the point where, it's like, don't look in that dark closet, right?
Mm,
Because that's part of self-awareness too. Yes, you can look at all the great things that you love about yourself and that you love about this, but you also have to address the closet. You have to address the darkness, the things that we're kind of scared to look at, because when you can become aware of those too, that gives you that much more freedom to make certain choices, to take you down the path that you want to go. We can't just look at one side, because then we're imbalanced,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I believe that self-awareness is something that I think it's an innate capability that humans have. And that's probably my number one goal, as a chiropractor, of what I'm inspiring and intending to wake up in every single person that comes in to the practice.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's why that's how chiropractic was founded. It was never the OGs of chiropractic would slap the shit out of us if they saw what chiropractic was turning into today, especially in schools,
Yeah.
which is the treatment and mitigation or regulation of headaches, neck pain, and back pain.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Chiropractic was never meant for that. If you look at all the philosophy books
Yeah.
and even the original books, chiropractic was about connecting man the physical with man the spiritual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And then I guess, so how are you, um, like helping are you just asking, is it like to help people become more self-aware, or to really like think, is it just asking questions?
There's
Because
it's
I've heard you like in the off, like in that space where you're
mhm.
just kind of like, tell me more about this, or how does this feel, or something,
Yeah.
is that kind of it, just like diving into it and trying to pull, like, get them to like process that?
Absolutely. I believe there's windows, but a lot of it is question based, right? Of asking questions that people aren't used to hearing, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people can go in and, if they're coming in for maybe low back pain gets them in the door. Okay. So we look at that, and this is the way we set up progress exams and initial exams and all of these evaluations that we put up, but it's also to ask deeper questions. Okay. So it's not just what's wrong with my back, but it's helping you discover and become aware of why is it there in the first place? What is pain? Why is pain even there? What
Mm-hmm.
is your relationship to it? Is it something that should just be numbed or like kind of disregarded, or something that you should obsess over every single day and resist? Or is your body trying to tell you something, and communicate with you, right? I always tell people, unfortunately, our bodies can't speak in English and say, hey, Caleb, look, it's your low back. And I just wanted to tell you that you're doing way too much right now, and you should focus more on family
Yeah.
at this moment, right? And stop working out so much because you're running from something. Unfortunately, you can't say that. It gives me pain signals, right? And this pain signal, it may start as a whisper, right? Intermittent, subtle, dull aches of pain. Okay, that's okay. I can deal with that. And then as it gets worse and louder, it's going to eventually get its way, right? If it needs me to slow down in the gym, then it will get to the point where every time I go to the gym, it gets excruciating,
Yeah.
right? Which will ultimately force me to put the gym down and focus on whatever it was trying to tell me in the beginning,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I believe we have our energetic body and our physical body, and that they're connected. They communicate with each other, right? So if we have, because a lot of these things that we see that are manifesting physically in the human body are also in this emotional body. We can relate it back to traumas or certain aspects of the self that need to be addressed. And as soon as we start to ask those questions, all of a sudden they start to have these aha moments of, oh, wow, yeah, I didn't even think about that,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And so a good question I like to ask people is, okay, you're coming in with your low back, right? When this thing flares up, what are some of the emotions that come up? Man, it's very frustrating, right? Because I can't be present with my wife or my kids. I can't go do the things that I want to do. I feel helpless. Okay. Are there other areas of your life, or have there been times where you may have felt helpless, right? Where you couldn't do anything? Oh, you know what? You're right.
Mm.
Yeah. And they relate it to whether it be a parent or it could be back in middle school, right? That our body stores trauma. It holds memory of all the experiences we've had in life. And when a trauma happens and it gets stored in the body, it will lie dormant until it's ready to be healed or expressed, right? And so we see a lot of that and I tell people this now, when you're going through care, you may start to find that these pain points might start to get worse for a second.
Yeah.
Or you may have ones that you thought were way gone and now they're back.
Yeah.
Why is that, right? Because these stories, whatever's under there, whatever's potentially, whatever energy is in there is ready to be expressed and ready to be released. So I invite them to lean in to this discomfort. Don't run from it.
Yeah.
Don't resist it. Don't push it back down, right? Lean into it. What's it trying to tell you? And by doing that, you allow people that a level of awareness of, okay, now when every time my neck hurts or my head hurts, I don't run for the Advil every time, or
Yeah.
I don't run for the wine bottle, whatever it is. Okay, I'm going to listen,
Yeah.
right? And I think
Yeah.
that's really important because, man, health is very simple. It may not be
Right.
easy, especially with how society is set up, but health is very simple. If we can eat well, move well, sleep well, think well, right? And make sure that this vessel is clear, you're healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel that a lot of practitioners, everyone just tries to overcomplicate things. To going back to the information overload,
Yeah.
where people don't know what to choose, they
Yeah.
don't know what's right. So I really feel that it's important to bring it full circle and bring it back around to keep it simple, man. Do something that you enjoy when it comes to moving your body. Eat what makes you feel good and something that you can do sustainably. Get good sleep,
Yeah.
right? Get your circadian rhythm back in check. If that's putting the phone down at a certain time at night, so you're not getting lit up with blue light that allows your circadian rhythm to dysregulate, then do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you drink enough water and be kind to yourself, right? Quit shitting on yourself every single day, because your self-image matters, right?
Yeah.
And also surround yourself with people that are doing the same thing and also want you to succeed just as
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Or where you want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. The self-talk thing is I heard that or I was reminded of that again recently, and it's just like, listen to your inner thoughts, like how you're talking to yourself in certain situations. Like what are you saying about yourself, right? And sometimes we're not even, just going back to like the self-awareness part of it, like we're not even aware of, like we're just tearing ourselves down, like, we're pieces of shit because we didn't do this, we didn't get, accomplish all this stuff in the day that we wanted to accomplish it. And you're right, man, just be kind to yourself, just be kind to everybody else, and especially be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
It starts with yourself.
Oh, every time.
Yeah.
And I think like we talked about this at our meeting the other day, it's, you know, a healthy body, you can't have a healthy body with unhealthy thoughts, right?
Yeah.
You
Right.
can't have abundance with a impoverished mind,
Yeah.
right? You can't have love, true abundance, right? I'm not talking about just monetary, because there's a lot of rich people out there that are absolutely miserable.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get that right too. Like true abundance, true happiness and fulfillment and joy in life. But this all stems from the mind, right? And I think Ed Milet said this. He said, you can't out earn your self worth.
Yeah.
Right? You
Yeah.
can't out earn your self worth. So
That's
it's
true.
like you can read all the books, you can do all these things, but at the end of the day, if you don't think you're worthy of accomplishing these things or having these things or that you deserve this,
Yeah.
you won't get it.
Right.
Right? You have to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I deserve a healthy body, right? I deserve love. I deserve a partner. I deserve financial freedom. I deserve a happy family and I deserve a happy life. And when you can truly believe that to where it's a knowing, it's unshakable, right? Because it will get tested,
Oh yeah.
right? When you can just solidify that into your mind, it's like magic, man.
Yeah.
It really is. And I think that's, if you look at every successful person that we see across the board, they've all gone through hardships and most of them have come from nothing, right? So they really had to go and start to work on this self-worth, and it starts to evolve as you evolve, right?
Right.
It's just one step at a time. You can't just snap your finger and be like, oh yeah, man, I'm worthy of $10 billion, right? You can't even conceive $10 billion.
Right.
Let's start with 10,000,
Yeah.
right? If you're at 10,
Yeah.
right? And then go from there. But this can be in any aspect of life, with weights, with competitions, with things we want to do. Start somewhere and just try,
Yeah.
just see what happens.
So you mentioned weights. I've started to work out recently.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And hit the gym. And I've learned because it's been, actually, I don't think I've never really like followed. I'm trying to think. Like I've gone to different boot camps and stuff, but I've never like on myself like followed some fitness program at the gym, 3-4 days a week, whatever that is. And so I'm doing that now, right? And it's a bunch of new movements that I'm not used to. And so I've been like getting into that on a slower pace, like, being okay with not lifting heavy weights or just not feeling like I'm really physically exerting myself, but just getting used to the movements and pushing around some weight. And even if like the end of the workout, maybe I need to cut it a little bit short because I don't want to exhaust myself completely for the rest of the day, just being okay with that. Right. And so like going back to like being kind to yourself, even today. So I hit the gym 3 days this week. Today was going to be my fourth, but I was just feeling exhausted and stuff. We still went for a run this morning, but didn't hit the gym. But just having that awareness to, like be okay with just small wins, small increment steps to achieve like the ultimate goal.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I think this is, especially as you're going through this, I mean, dude, self-love and compassion is one of the most important things, because yes, you can, and you see a lot of athletes. I was one of them who, and sometimes I still do, I will drive myself into the ground.
Yeah.
Because I'm so regimented and I'm so scared to take a rest day or have a bad day in the gym or fail or whatever it is, that I will keep pushing and make myself do it regardless. And what I found, my body will put me out.
Yeah.
It'll put me down, right? It can survive. I do believe there are times where you still need to show up for yourself, even though it's hard.
For sure.
But there's other times, big, like for sure, that you should definitely listen to your body and say, okay, I may not go hit it as hard as I plan to today, but I'm still going to get something, right? You still went for a run, because it's still new, right?
Yeah.
And then there's other times where you have to look and say, okay, what is the voice saying? Is it saying, hey man, you've been really going at it, you've been doing a lot, I need a little bit of a break? Or is it saying, this is too much change, I'm super scared, like I want to go back to the old habits and way of doing things, right? Because there's two different sides of it. One is actual compassion for the self, and then the other one's it's like the devil on the shoulder trying to talk you out of this new lifestyle that you're creating, right?
Yeah.
It's still the old pattern. that you're still having to get rid of. So it can be challenging to discern that too. And sometimes you have to push that limit, and then other times you have to just hold yourself accountable. And I think that's the difference. That's where self-discipline comes in
Yeah.
with compassion,
Yeah.
because not everyone can be David Goggins, right?
Right.
Right. I mean, the guy like has a
He's
bionic knee
one
now.
of one.
Right.
One of one.
Right. And so
Yeah.
I think that's really important, because there's a lot of oh, that's me.
Is that okay?
Yeah, no, that's
It's
fine.
okay.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are like that. You know, you have your extreme sides of no matter what, no matter how you're feeling, you need to go get it. But there was Jocko Willink said this, and it resonates a lot with me. And he said, on days that you're tired or that voice comes into your head telling you to take a rest day, go anyway. If you're still tired after that day, then take a rest day. But sometimes you have to test your willpower to see if it was real or if it was just trying to lie to you.
Yeah.
And that was very powerful for me, because he wasn't saying go anyway every single day, no matter what, but he was saying test that voice.
Yeah.
See what it's saying and see if it's true. Is it trying to pull you back and hold you back into an old pattern? Or is it genuinely saying, hey,
You need
we
a
should
break.
probably take a
Yeah.
break, right?
That's a really good point, right? And I would probably argue that most of the time you could still show up, right? And you truly probably don't need the break that you or maybe you just show up and it's not 100%. Maybe you show up and it's 75%,
Right.
whatever that number is, right? But even then, like the power that you get, like the fulfillment that you get just for showing up, even if it's not 100%,
Totally.
is powerful too.
You show up every day, right?
Yeah.
If you have 40% in the tank and you
Yeah.
give 40%, you still
Yeah.
gave 100,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And at the end of the day, it's what are you showing up for, right? Because most people, myself included, you know, I'm still an athlete at heart, but now I have a family. You know, I have a newborn, I have a partner, I have my team, I have my chiropractic business. You know, I have all of these things. It's when it comes to working out, I still have that, oh, you need to do this anyway. But you start to have to look back and prioritize, okay, what really matters at this moment, right? And just like with you, like, oh yeah, you could have gone this fourth day this week, but what are you sacrificing on top of that, right? Maybe you would have gone too hard, or something would have happened, you would have tweaked it, and then not been able to show up for your business, or not been
Yeah.
able to show up for the kids when you got home. So
Yeah.
it's definitely prioritizing it, you know? Yeah, if you're a professional athlete and this is your livelihood, then yeah, you show up
Yeah.
in that athletic standpoint, right?
For sure.
And you see what's up.
Yeah.
But if it's not, then you also have to say, okay, well, what are my priorities? And if my mind is fighting this, and it's scared to not take, if it's scared to take a day off, where's that fear coming from? Right?
Yeah.
Going back to the self-image thing, I have this a lot. I feel that, you know, if I take a day off from lifting weights, then I'm just going to lose all my muscle and be this puny little kid that got bullied again, you know? And so it's like, okay, you can become aware of that and just come to the realization of that. That voice is, that inner child's going to be there. But now you can talk to it like an adult and like a mentor of like, hey, you're not going to lose all your muscle,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You're not going to be a puny kid that gets bullied anymore. Like, you can take a day off and go take a walk with the fam, or
Yeah.
go do some yard work. Because at the end of the day, I could hit a PR, a personal record on back squat or whatever, and I get home and tell Shelby about it, and she's like, cool, can you take care of Callie while I cook us dinner, or can you cook dinner and take the trash out?
Right.
Like, she doesn't care
Right.
how much I lifted at the end of the day.
Yeah.
She just cares that I'm present with her and with
Showing up.
Callie. So
Yeah.
I think that's my perception and priorities have definitely changed in that aspect, and I think that's really important.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So like you becoming a dad, and it's still kind of new for you, right? But like so far, like what's something that you've learned that maybe you didn't expect, maybe you did expect it, right? But something that kind of like sticks out.
The biggest thing that sticks out to me with Callie being born was that there is without a doubt, whatever you want to call it, there is without a doubt a higher power that is controlling everything. Because we did a home birth, and whenever Shelby got pregnant, it was one of those things like you get kind of scared because we've had friends that have had trouble getting pregnant or miscarrying, so that fear was always back there. But during the birth, we had the home birth, and to see the way Shelby's body did what it did to not only prep but actually have Callie, and to see a life come out of another human and another life create life, and how everything just did it on its own, right? No matter what, was fascinating to me. And then stepping into that dad role, I was like, okay, especially as a chiropractor, I mean, it gave me so much conviction and certainty that, dude, nature, God's got this thing figured out, right? Like this power is literally, this innate intelligence is literally within all of us, right?
Yeah.
On top of that, being in dad mode, it also showed me how to reprioritize things. I didn't realize how selfish I was,
Yeah.
right? I was spoiled with going to the gym for multiple hours. I was golfing every week. I was disc golfing. I was traveling whenever, right? But it ultimately showed me, one, yes, I'm a really good dad, but I could be a better partner, right? It showed me something more, living for something more than just myself, because somebody's relying on you and they're about to learn life from you,
Yeah.
right? So it really furthered me into like living in integrity and making those choices behind closed doors that are going to result in something that I can be proud of, right? And be proud to teach her, because ultimately at the end of the day, like, yeah, when you have someone that's fully reliant on you, like, you have to show up big, right?
Yeah.
But also for Shelby, because right now Shelby's breastfeeding, she's attached to Callie, or Callie's attached to her all the time,
Yeah.
right? And so picking up the stuff around the house, doing those things around the house to make sure that everything's good for her. It also showed me communication, right?
Yeah.
It always leads back to communication, especially with any relationship. I think that's probably the biggest one so far right now for me, is communication, of just saying, hey, these are my needs right now, or asking her, like, what do you need?
What do you need?
Right?
Yeah.
What do I need to get done? Can I go, like, do I have the space to go do this? Right? And she gets annoyed with me because she's like, you don't always have to, like, make it a thing of asking for permission. But I think, I just found a whole new respect, just for women in general, but for her especially, of like being able to watch her go through that. And just like how powerful that was for me. But
Yeah.
babies, especially little girls, dude, they know how to bust you wide open, man. I feel like I've never been such an emotional person in my entire
Oh my
life.
gosh, dude, same here.
There's a lot of things that came up,
Yeah.
I cried a lot when she was born, and I even now I feel so in touch with my emotions, that I didn't realize how disconnected I was from them.
Yeah.
Right. Even to a certain level. So yeah, I mean, that was a really big thing, was being able to not only get in touch with my emotions, but be able to communicate what I need and ask for help, and then communicate with or listen to Shelby when she's communicating her needs, because that was a big thing for us, as Callie was born.
Yeah, I think I mean, it's not easy becoming parents, right? Like it's hard. I mean, you really have no idea what you're doing,
Yeah.
right? Like you can take some classes and stuff, but at the end of the day, like it's just you two, and there's things are gonna come up, and you're gonna have no idea, like, what do we do here? And you just do the best you can, communicate, like you said, and yeah, and it'll all work out.
Totally.
But yeah, it's challenging being a parent. I feel like, especially, well, I don't know, not that I know any different, right? But like in today's age, there's so much information and stuff, like maybe that makes it more difficult. I don't know what it is, but
I believe so. There's a lot of times that I've talked to Shelby, and she'll get mad at me sometimes because she goes, they say this, this, and this, and I'll say, they say, huh? But a lot of it is figuring it out on your own, because every experience is different, right? Especially as a parent, no one knows you better than you, but
yeah,
also no one knows your child better than you,
yeah,
right? And so if we would just pay attention a little bit and listen, and watch them, they can teach us a lot. They can show us a lot. What does this mean versus this? When they cry this way, or when their hand goes this way, what does that mean for them, right?
yeah,
It may not be for everyone
yeah,
else, right? It also showed me too, even before pregnancy, actually this whole birth, was how important her health, Shelby's health, was, and how important my health was.
yeah.
So we learned after she gave birth, they have the placenta, and the placenta came out, and the midwives are like, "Oh my God, this thing is like amazing." And
Yeah.
it's such a midwife thing to say,
Yeah.
but I was like, "What do you mean?" And because they were like, "Good job, Dad." And I was
Yeah.
like, "What do you mean?" And they were like, "Your side of things, right? During development, it impacted the placenta a lot. Like the health of the placenta was pretty much impacted by your health."
Oh wow.
And so I looked it up, and I was like, holy crap, it's actually true. Like through the genetic coding, right? Our health, the male's health, actually greatly impacts the health of the lifeline for that child.
Crazy.
Now, during the pregnancy, of course, it's what the mom eats too. So that's a big thing, bro.
Yeah.
Is how healthy is the mom already, but then also during pregnancy, how healthy is she,
Yeah.
right? But the guys play a lot more than what the
Yeah.
joke is about,
Yeah.
like, having the 10-second roll or whatever. It matters a lot. So it's the health on both sides, because you're literally creating a life. So the health of that baby is ultimately determined by the health of you,
Yeah.
right? And then once they're born, as they're starting to develop and grow, what examples are you showing them, right? You can say whatever you want, but the whole thing of don't do as I do as I say, that's
Oh
old
yeah.
news, man.
Yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
lead by example.
Yep.
You got to be the example for your kid,
Yep.
And so I think that's a big thing that showed up for me too, being a parent. Is like, okay, I got to really stay on my stuff, with whether it be the gym, business, whatever, but also being present. So yeah, just kind of up the ante a little bit.
Yeah. So, like raising a kid, raising a family, right? It takes a village. Like community is super important. I know community is super important to you guys at the source, and like what you guys have built there
Big time.
in that community. Like talk to me a little bit about that, and like how have you gone about creating it, and has that always been a focus from day one?
So with the source, it was created from day one. It was something that, and looking back, it was something that I always valued, playing
Yeah.
team sports. And then when I started coaching CrossFit, I mean, the whole sport of CrossFit got created because of community,
Yeah.
right? It wasn't for the 1% that go to the games that you see on ESPN. It was for the other people that show up and, dealt with addictions or overweight or
Yeah.
whatever it was, they found a family and a tribe that supported them, to make this lifestyle change and held them accountable, right? So it's the same thing with the source. When I first came here, I wasn't used to going and hosting breathwork events or Reiki nights or, educating people in community events. I mean, for our 1-year anniversary, we had over 100 people come, right? And anytime something happens or we're doing something, we always do it in community. And it was, so essentially how the source created it was, we don't heal in isolation, we heal in community, right? And so this is why we do open style adjusting too, because you could be having the best day, right? And the person next to you could be having a really tough time. And I've seen this happen. I have literally seen someone, all 4 tables are full. Someone comes in, has a huge emotional release, and they are just like letting it go, just sobbing. And you watch all the other three people that are on the table start to hold space. They're all taking these deep breaths, slowing it down. And I'm just sitting back watching it like, wow, this community is incredible. But that's innate. We didn't teach them, hey, if you ever hear someone crying on the table, I want you to get real still and I want you to start breathing. I want you to hold space for them.
Yeah.
We never said that. Right? It was what we created in the space itself that it just innately happens, right? It's the energy that you provide. And so community's big for us because that's where you heal the most, man. When you get around a group of people who want you to change, I mean, think about like the biggest mentor you've ever had in your life. One person, right? How many great conversations you've had with them, how much insight, but how much space they held for you. Now, multiply that by 10, 20, 30, 100,
Yeah.
right? When you get into a community where everyone wants the same thing and it's just for everyone to live healthy, happy lives, that's the most powerful thing that a human being can be a part of, right? Back in the day, if you didn't have your tribe or your community, if you got exiled, you were dead.
Yeah.
You were gonna die, right? You were on your own.
Yeah.
And so isolation is one of the most destructive things that you could ever do to a human being. And they've done studies on that, right? You put them in isolation to torture them essentially, and they go crazy.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's one thing that's always been at the core of it. The foundation of our practice is community, because at the end of the day, chiropractic is chiropractic and it's very special, but that extra something is the community.
Yeah.
And that's what really keeps people wanting to be a part of what we're doing. And that's why it's growing.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was, I saw this the other day, and it was graphs on like the amount of time that we spend with people, and it was like, from like birth till death, right? And it was like the amount of time you spend with your family, right? And it peaks, at like teen years or whatever, and then it starts to drop off after that, or maybe it might have been before teen years, that you spend with your family, and then it drops off. And then it was like, the amount of time that couples spend with other couples or friends and stuff like that, right? And it was basically like the end of life, we kind of like disconnect, and not like, the last year or two, but like the last like retirement, basically. Like you retire and you kind of disconnect because you don't have the community, the work community, or you're not involved in all these different things. So I think like just hitting on that point of like how important community is, and however you find it, whether it's through a workout group, whether it's through your chiropractor, whether it's through your job, right? But like we always need that community, and it's super important to, I think, maintain that like throughout our entire life.
Oh, 100%. I believe that because that's one of my biggest fears, right? And I think that's part of why I don't like, I don't instigate any issues, but I'm a very confrontational person where if I feel that something is off, I'll just address it. I will address it immediately and be like, yeah, hey, let's figure it out. Are we good? Because I don't like bad blood, because I think that isolation is one of my biggest fears, because community is so important to me. And you're exactly right, man. By the time, people start to retire and start to isolate themselves, and they're just like, one, they get stale and stagnant, right?
Yeah.
And so they stop moving as much. They stop doing the things that were actually really healthy for them. But ultimately, the community is the biggest part. And that's why, you see people, even at the nursing homes, like they're just going to, like my granddad, he'd just go to the co-op or gas station, whatever it was. He had his routine just to go talk to somebody, So I think that's what's really important too. And it's like church, man. Why do so many people just love physically going to church when you have the internet now and you can just do it over the computer and watch a service or whatever it is? It's a community.
Yeah.
People who share similar beliefs and holds similar values get together, and they just support each other in it,
Yeah.
and I think that's what's really important in whatever you're doing. Nothing's right or wrong or whatever, because as long as you're not telling someone else how to live or affecting them in a negative manner or disempowering manner, so to speak,
Yeah.
then man, like, community is one of the biggest things you could do.
Yeah.
That's why I love being in Florida, because it's so active. You got your pickleball, you got all sorts of things, all sorts of community things that happen around here. And now you're seeing, even after the hurricane, the community get together and help other people.
Yeah.
Right. So that's really special, because yeah, I mean, man, I think isolation is one of the biggest things that could disrupt any sort of healthy individual.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the good things that, like, if you're going to say like there's a positive for everything that's happened here the last week, of the community like really coming together, like everybody's in helping a hand, doing what they can, whether it's donating, whether it's showing up to remove people's belongings from their house to help restore their lives and whatnot. But you really see that, and I've seen it before in past storms and everything, where like communities really come together like during those times. And it makes you wonder, you know like, can we keep this sense of community moving forward? Like, or is it just going to go back to like, somewhat of a disconnect, right? You're just going to fall into your smaller communities, right? But if you could keep like the entire community together, kind of like it is now, that'd be pretty cool.
Totally. I think hopefully we've learned our lesson from COVID, because that was one of the biggest like community disruptors that I've experienced in my life.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't really realize it until you look back, but with the separations, things closing down,
Yeah.
people being scared to be around other people, I mean, you want to talk about like mental health issues now, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's why they skyrocketed.
Yeah.
And you can see that now. It's
Yeah.
measurable. Ultimately, it was because you took away community, right? Luckily, Florida, we're just like, we're like the rebels as a state,
Yeah.
because we're like, you don't tell us what to do, kind of deal. But yeah, you see that as one of the biggest disruptors. And even going to the ultra that we ran a few weeks ago, there was something in me, because I had just had a kid and just gotten back to work, and it was very overwhelming and stressful. And I remember one of my buddies told me, he said, "Hey man, you might want to rethink this run, because you already got a lot on your plate. It seems to be taking up a lot of your mental capacity, and even after the run, you're going to be so destroyed that you might run the risk of not being able to help Shelby with the baby afterwards and all this." And this is someone, I mean, he's like a brother to me and a mentor. Like, I respect what he says a lot.
Yeah.
But in that moment, it went through one ear and out the other, because there was something that was telling me, hey, you're not running this for your ego, right? You're not doing this to prove anything to anyone. You could easily say, hey guys, I know I told you guys I was running this race, but just had a kid, things got overwhelming, I'm not going to run it. No one's going to say, oh, you know what, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? No one's going to say that. But something told me, it was like, yeah, you need to run this race. You need to do this run, because something special is happening. And something special did happen, and I realized it. And it wasn't even about the run, but it was about you guys coming out and running with us.
Yeah.
And that was the coolest thing. We had so many people texting us during the race, which I didn't really look at my phone. I did a few check-ins. I think I got to like mile 16 on my last check-in, and then I saw my battery was getting low, and I was like, well, if they're tracking us, I don't want to, go off the grid.
Yeah.
But that was the coolest thing, is when we got, I mean, the people who stayed literally from 5 o'clock in the morning all the way to the end, crewing for us, taking us to the starting line, making sure every time that we got to a stop, what do you need? What do you have? They made sure everything was there. They would run for us. And then we got to Dunedin. You guys started running with us. We had multiple people show up, people coming from St. Pete all the way up here to run with us, and Tarpon, and just cheering us on the entire time, that's when as soon as I finished the race, I just broke down. And that was one of the biggest things. Even now, just thinking about it, that was like one of the most profound things for me, because I realized how important the community was and how special these people were to me. And it was really cool to see people like love you so much. They would just come run
Yeah.
with you,
Yeah.
you know?
Hang out for a
And
little.
most people ran the most miles they ever did on that day
Yeah.
with us, right?
Yeah.
They didn't have to,
Right.
but they were like, these guys are doing it. Let's
Let's
see what we
go.
can do.
Yeah.
But you don't realize how much that inspires people outside of that too. Um, one of our friends, her mom saw that we did that and saw how big the community came out for it, and decided, well, if they're going to do something hard, then I'll do something hard too. And she's on her journey of not smoking anymore.
Nice.
Which is like one of the hardest habits to kick.
Nice.
So it's just like, you never know how profound an impact of doing things like that can have on other people, just through inspiration.
Yeah.
Right.
It's funny. So I remember I wasn't sure if I was going to make it that day, right? But we're with the family and stuff. And it just happened to work out. Like the kids went down for a nap. I'm like, okay, if I'm going to go, like I can make it now. And I texted you and I'm like, hey, do you need anything? Right. Like, and of course I didn't hear from you, right? You're in your run or whatever. And then I show up and like everybody's there, right?
Yeah.
This is like downtown Dunedin. I'm like, oh shit, like he's got a crew with them. Of course he doesn't need anything. He's good. But yeah, like that was like caught me off guard too. I mean, it's cool because, and we were talking about on the run, like to be able to do that. And there were people doing it, right? There were people that were running by us going the other way that were doing it without like all the support and stuff like that, and just how mentally challenging that can be. But it just goes to show like how much the community can truly help. Because that was, what was the longest run you did before that was what, 15
miles. Yeah.
So you went from 15 to 46.
46. Yeah. It sounds kind of crazy.
Yeah. Let's just triple this.
Yeah, let's triple it. And I think that's what I wanted to prove as well is, we are so much more capable of way more than we think we are, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I wanted to do this one, because I hated running.
Yeah.
I lift weights. I love lifting weights. And I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, I hated running.
Yeah.
But what really inspired it is you had him on the podcast, Jordan.
Yeah.
Right? When Jordan and I met, he was 6 days away from back surgery.
Yep.
Massive, like big pivotal moment in his life, but also mine, because made a full like turnaround recovery. And then you can see what happens when you take off from that. You can say, okay, like, cool, my back feels better, thanks, whatever, and leave it at that. He, now he's one of my best friends, right? But two, started going to the gym, created a run club, and then asked me, hey, you want to run this ultra? And I was like, why the hell not?
Yeah.
Let's do something. Because I wanted to do something that, one, I hate doing, and two, I had no idea if I could finish it or not.
Yeah.
Right? And so, and I didn't train for it how most people would train for a 46-mile run. I did. So that 15-mile run, you were there for it. We did that, 4 months ago? I don't remember how long ago
it was the day we recorded the last
Yeah,
podcast.
we'll have to look at it. Yeah. Because it was well before the race. And I remember running that 15 miles and saying, I don't think I'm going to do that again, because that might talk me out of running this race, right? I have no idea how I would do that 2 more times.
Yeah.
Right? And then, that was the longest run I had. I typically ran 1 to 4 miles a day. And mostly 1 mile. I would start my day with a 1-mile run. And then on Saturdays, I would go to Jordan's Run Club and run a 5K.
Yeah.
And that was it. So I was averaging 12 to 13 miles a week. And then the rest was bodybuilding, weightlifting, and then CrossFit. So it was actually pretty amazing, because I wanted to show people, hey, you don't have to, one, lose a bunch of weight and become really skinny and weak and go run 46 miles. But also, like, it doesn't have to be where you're setting aside multiple hours all the time to go do this run. You can actually accomplish it by doing whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that was huge because the same week, I was like, running 46 miles doesn't really inspire me all that much. But being strong and running 46 miles inspires me. It impresses me. So I wanted to impress myself. So we ran it on Saturday. The Tuesday before we ran it, I clean and jerked 300 pounds. And I was like, okay, now I'm impressed. If I can complete this run, now I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I can do this, I can lift heavy and I can run far.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that was ultimately like something that like I can like hang my hat on because I'm proud of myself for doing something that I hated, but ultimately I was blown away with how much the community showed up
Yeah.
for that. 94,000 steps that's a lot of steps. That's more
Yeah.
steps than most people get in probably 2 weeks sometimes,
Yeah.
right? And so it was really, really special. But what I realized even after that is I still run a mile a day.
Yeah.
I still get my mile in, right? And a lot of people see that and they're like, man, that's really cool. So I think we've got a 50K coming up in January that we're probably gonna do, and I think we're gonna have a lot of people
Nice.
come out for that one and
Nice.
actually run it.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
That'd be fun. What was recovery like?
So
Were you like crab walking the next day?
yeah. So okay, and that was the biggest thing too is my buddy, he told me like you're not gonna be able to help much the next day.
Yeah.
That was me like gritting my teeth and saying no, I'm gonna still show up. So it was really the worst was right after the run. So as soon as we crossed the finish line, we all had our big emotional moment. And then I remember just laying on the ground for like 15 minutes and I couldn't sit still. I couldn't get comfortable. My legs hurt. It was a sensation I had never felt before. And then after I got up from that 15 minutes, every step, it was like stepping on hot coals. Every step hurt. And then I got home, and this was when my brother and his wife and my dad came down to meet Callie for the first time. So my heart was just exploded. But the recovery was the night after the race was the worst. Didn't get much sleep, and then the next day my left foot was bruised and swollen. Pretty sure I had stress fractures across my metatarsals on the left foot. I think I tightened my shoe too much, and my left knee was swollen, and I couldn't straighten it. But what's interesting is we went to the beach that day. The very next day, we went to the beach. It was Callie's first beach trip, and I was very slowly moving through the sand, got into the water, came back out, and I was squatting down to pick Callie up, and I felt this urge, like this tightness in my knee, and this urge to just like bend it really quick. And when I did that, I heard this huge pop. And as a chiropractor, it was my fibula, right? And it just erupted, boom. And right when it did that, it was like such a sigh of relief. I was like, oh my God. And I started like pretty much walking normal after that.
Yeah.
And so just that, it's so fascinating how at the right place, at the right time, the body's like, okay, we can correct this right now. Boom.
Yeah.
And you just follow it. Boom. You follow the urge. And all of a sudden, the next day I ran a mile. I was good to go.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was way faster than I thought.
Did you I'm sure stretching, did you stretch at all or just, was it just like moving, like walking?
Very carefully and very little.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to push any extremes.
Was it just too tight at that point?
Yes, everything's so tight. I mean, the inflammation is so much because you just broke your body down over 12 hours, right? And also just all the electrolytes and carbs and stuff that I put in my body was just having to figure it out, right? So I did move around gingerly and very slowly to get to normal ranges of motion, but it was nothing extreme. It was, if you had to do it in yoga terms, it was like the most yin yoga you could ever think of, for probably 30 minutes the night of, and then 30 minutes the next day, just to get the body open, because I think that's important too. You gotta open the body up,
Yeah.
so the fascia doesn't compensate and tighten up on you.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I've been doing is trying to stretch like nightly and
Mm,
like just work that into my nightly routine
yes.
and I think it's been helping too. Right. And then like working out too, like I'm stretching, just doing a few stretches before and
Hmm.
after. Um, yeah. Just trying to take care of my body a little bit more.
That is the number one thing I tell people. If you come into the practice and you start care, this is the biggest thing that I tell people. You come you come here to heal better. What you
Mm-hmm.
do out there is what's going to allow you to feel better,
Mm-hmm.
right? Daily mobility has been the number one biggest thing that allows me to feel better
Mm-hmm.
every single day. If we could just take 5 to 35 minutes a day, whatever you can do,
Yeah.
and just open your body up, it would blow your mind how much better your body would feel.
Yeah.
It's your body is always recording your daily habits. What am I doing? What positions am I in, right? And so with these positions, over time, it's going to make you very efficient and very good at the things that you do a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're keeping your body open and you're taking it through these ranges of motion, it's recording that and it's getting you better at it and it's being more functional with it. Even with the workouts that you do, if you're doing these full range of motion workouts and these functional movements, it's recording that.
Yeah.
It will continue to allow you to do these movements until you die,
Yeah.
right? This is why you see the 80-year-olds and 90-year-olds that are still doing gymnastics or running triathlons or running marathons or doing this. They never stopped,
Right.
right? We humans were meant to be like this,
Right.
right?
Right.
But it's we get this mentality fixed up of, oh, I'm getting old, so you stop. Maybe you drink an extra beer or you stop eating so healthy. You stop going on those runs, right? Well, instead of, okay, if running's hurting, find something else. Go
Yeah.
for a bike ride.
Yeah.
Go for a swim. Do some sit ups. Do something, right? Just stretch, right? Keep your body functional and moving. And I promise you, it will allow you to keep doing it until you're ready to not do it anymore.
Yeah.
So I always say, you were talking about doing the daily mobility. That's probably one of the biggest pieces of homework that I give people that I see the biggest results from. The people who actually do it, because I can tell,
Yeah.
right? Your system will change, your adjustments will start to hold. I can tell. But what also happens, guess what? Sleep gets better, digestion gets better. Yeah, the adjustments do what they do, right? But that's what, 5, 10 minutes
Yeah. My
once a
routine
week?
is 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the adjustment, right?
Oh, the
5, 10 minutes
adjustment. Yeah.
once a
Yeah.
week
Yeah.
when you get into that lifestyle
Right.
care once a
Yes.
week, right?
Yeah.
What are you doing for the other 23 hours
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
55 minutes,
Yeah.
right?
That has a
So
far bigger impact on your body.
100%.
Yeah.
But how simple could it be? If you took 5 to 10 minutes to stretch your body out daily,
Yeah.
if you took 3 to 4 days to move your body in a healthy manner, functional manner, if you ate a little bit better, if you went to sleep at a decent hour,
Yeah.
and if you got adjusted, how much better could that be?
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because now you're connected, you're opening your body well, you're feeding it good nutrition, you're feeding it good thoughts, you're surrounding yourself with positive influences, dude. This is how you change. This is how you change your life.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna I'm glad you brought that up because that's it. Like it starts with your body, right? But like once your body is feeling better, it allows you to do so much more in your job, with your relationships,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, right? Just being more present. But if this isn't taken care of, then you can't show up for the other aspects of it, right? But you could have everything else that you wanted if you just took care of this.
It's hard to pour into other people when your cup is empty,
Yeah.
right? But it's very easy to humans have we have a very good habit or tendency to self-sabotage, right?
Yeah.
And so when things start going really well, we stop focusing on the things that allow us to do the things that go really well,
Yeah.
unless they are part of our lifestyle. And this is what we preach every single day. If you can make these simple things part of your lifestyle where you no longer have to do them, but you want to do them. They're non-negotiables. It'll change everything.
Oh, yeah.
You will have way more energy to do whatever you want, to show up for whoever you want. You have way more capacity. You're functioning better than most of your friends, right? And you just don't deal with the same problems that other people deal with, because this is your lifestyle. When you make health your priority, dude, everything else is just available to you.
Yeah.
Because you have that access. Health is wealth, man.
Yeah.
You want to get better at business? Take care of your health. You want to be a better partner, a better husband? You want to be better at anything? Take care of your health. Because this is your vessel. This is your engine, right? The more you take care of it and fine tune it, the better it's going to run. And the more freedom you have to experience this thing we call life.
Yeah. So that just reminded me, last thought here, and going back to the book, I can't think of the name of it anymore.
Untethered Soul.
Untethered Soul. He talks about like energy, right? Like we have an abundance of energy like in our body that's available at all times, right? And the example he talked about was if like something happens and you need like a boost of energy or something, like it's there, right? So why can't it be there throughout the day or for whatever it is that you need that energy for, right? You're feeling tired and you got to show up for a podcast or whatever, right? You have that energy there. You just have to be tapped in to be able to use it, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
And one of the easiest ways to tap in is, I mean, there's plenty of things. Most people, I'm guilty of it too. I'll reach for some caffeine.
Yeah.
But one of the most potent ways, if you're ever low on energy and you want to tap into something, you need energy to show up, breath work, man.
Yeah.
One of the most profound practices I've ever discovered in my entire life.
Yeah.
And it's been with us this entire time. We use it all the time, right?
Right.
But intentional breath work of getting oxygen, getting energy moving in and out of the body, opening up the channels again, more clarity, more energy, just more relaxation, more everything, right? If you could stop and take 30 breaths in and out consistently, it would change your life, man. So you're exactly right. Like, energy is abundant. Everything you see around you is energy.
Energy. Yeah.
It's limitless. It's infinite, right? Energy is infinite. It's this that starts to get into the way, right? This gets in the way. And this is another thing that we talk about is we always like to reach for things outside of us. Oh, I just need coffee or cocaine, whatever it is, I need all these things outside of myself. Brother, you got like the biggest form of energy right there that's inhaling and exhaling every single second.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the energy it's always there. You're exactly right. We have to get out of our own way. Because a lot of these things are like mental blockages that result in physical dips in energy, performance, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
sweet, man. Well, Caleb, always appreciate these conversations.
dude, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
I love these conversations.
Yeah. We should do like once a month. Just
I
like,
really
sit down
feel
and
like
have
we
a
could go
podcast.
down a rabbit hole. We'll have to get Evan out here too.
Yeah.
You want to talk about going down a rabbit hole?
Yeah.
I think really getting together once a quarter, once a month and just talking about whatever, I think this is stuff that people need to realize and kind of wake up to, because it's stuff that we already know, right? Like taking care of your health, it's stuff that we already know. Doing things that are right for you, it's stuff that you already know. It's just having people simplify it to where it makes sense, but also like inspire you to do it and to take your power back, because a lot of times people don't realize how much we've been caught up in certain habits or programmings that are just completely enslaving us to monotony, right? And so I'd like to make this a regular thing so we can continue to help inspire people to get after it.
So, I love it.
Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks, buddy.